So I'm leaving New York City for good after living here for 4 years. I'm leaving New York City. I can't handle it anymore. I gotta get out of here.
And it's not just because of this weird dude walking on all fours in the park that I saw today.
Now, I fully realize that just because life has become unsustainable here for me, it still might be the place for you. However, don't skip this video, because if you do, you might miss out on some of the less than glamorous facts about living here full time that New York City lifers might gloss over in their elevator pitch. I would not trade my time here for anything in the whole world, but I just wanted to shed some accurate light onto a few downsides that I was totally unaware of before I moved here. So without further ado, let's get amongst it.
Reason number 1.
Unhoused and unhinged. The homeless population here is out of control. Do not underestimate this problem if you're thinking about moving here. Now, I know that this is a hot button topic, and I am very, very privileged to have a roof over my head. I want to tread with compassion, but I want to paint you an accurate picture of what it's like to live with the homelessness issue here so that you can be informed. As of last year, there are about 93,000 homeless people in New York City. That's the largest number since the Great Depression, and about a third of them are children. Since living here, I've seen a homeless dude snorting cocaine in a bank kiosk here in Times Square, another shooting heroin into his toe in McDonald's, another peeing on a subway rail, another pooping into a drain gutter, another literally wiping his bare butt in a subway car, and my personal favorite, a man walking bare naked from the waist down onto the subway car towards me, sitting down right next to me and asking me for $1. In 2024, these sights are just inevitable in New York City. Have you had any crazy experiences with the homeless here in New York City? Let us know down in the comments, but please be nice. Another fun anecdote. During the height of the pandemic, I took a job delivering groceries for Amazon when there was no one here. It looked like I am legend. The craziest part was the only people on the street were people like me, delivery bikers or homeless people. During this time, I had flocks of hungry homeless people chasing me down, and I had to seek refuge and hide in hotel lobbies because their normal begging supply was totally wiped out. The saddest part about this issue for me is that when I moved here, initially I had an emotional reaction to every homeless person that I saw. But after a while, I became desensitized, sometimes seeing dozens per day. I had to shut myself off emotionally and ignore what I saw to keep myself relatively emotionally unscathed in this concrete jungle. But even so, it takes a toll on you after a while. Number 2, housing prices in New York City are insane. Okay, so if you miss everything else from this video, do not miss this. I had the opportunity to work for a real estate brokerage here for a couple of years, and I have some serious insider information about how landlords and brokerages scam their clients. Stay tuned. True story. 2 years ago, at the end of my COVID pricing lease, my monthly rent jumped from $1,500 a month to $2,800 a month overnight for a 1-bedroom with no washer dryer. Also, the bathroom smelled like a reptile terrarium, but that's beside the point. Look, it's not a news flash that rent in New York City is crazy high. Everyone knows this. But what no one talks about is even if you can afford housing here, the apartment hunt is a nightmare. Due to insane demand, realtors and landlords are incredibly lazy. During my various housing hunts here, I've had realtors show up to an hour late to appointments. And here's my personal favorite story. One realtor scheduled an appointment with me, and when I arrived for the appointment, called me and said the keys were under the mat to let myself in, check the place out, and lock up when I left. Now, let's talk about tactics that brokerages and landlords use to squeeze pennies, I mean thousands, out of their clients. Number 1, landlords lie about apartments being rent stabilized all the time here in New York. Number 2, brokerages squeeze small fees into the cracks during the application process to nickel and dime their potential tenants out of hundreds of dollars. Even though they only really examine the top 5 applicants for any given apartment, there's probably around 100 on the list that aren't even getting looked at, but are paying a couple $100s each in extra fees, which are illegal, by the way. Number 3, when I worked for real estate brokerage, we were specifically told to filter out any applicants who had access to rent assistance from the city government. This is illegal. However, it's an unspoken rule amongst brokerages and landlords here in New York City that these applicants should be filtered out. This is highly illegal and highly discriminatory. Number 4, brokerages and landlords scam out-of-state tenants like there's no tomorrow. This is especially prevalent with young adults who are coming to the Big Apple for school whose parents are paying for their rent. Since they're not physically in the city to tour the apartments in person, photos are doctored, amenities are exaggerated. I've even heard of parents having to pay a $20,000 fee to bump their kid's apartment application to the top of the stack. Wild.
Oh yeah, did I mention that it's pretty dirty here? I'm cleaning a handrail on one of the escalators at the subway with some wet ones just to see how much dirt comes off. Pretty gross, right?
Number 3, infrastructure fail. This city is not built for harsh weather. So if you thought that a city that taxes its citizens more heavily than Trump feverishly trying to sell Bibles in order to escape bankruptcy would provide some infrastructure to keep it safe from harsh weather, you would be wrong. I swear, during every heavy rainstorm, Brooklyn floods and the subway system looks like Splash Mountain at Disneyland. Check out some of this footage.
Reason number 4.
Public transportation is seriously hit and miss. Now, this may surprise you if you've ever visited the city before, because downtown areas and tourist attractions have great subway service. But once you start to travel beyond the beaten path, the beloved New York subway system really starts to fall apart. Here, I regularly find myself budgeting 20 to 30 minutes of buffer into my commute to compensate for maintenance, subway closures, and especially slower weekend service. And if you want to get an Uber on a bad subway day, that can cost you an extra $50 to $100 for one short ride. That is not an exaggeration. Now, I want to ask you, do you think living in New York City is worth it? Why or why not? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments, and please be nice to each other down there. Sayonara, New York City.